Hillary Clinton takes questions about her emails, but her answers have sparked more questions. This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. Welcome to Washington. Hillary Clinton says it was all a matter of convenience. The former Secretary of State and likely presidential candidate admits she could have made a smarter choice than using just one personal email account and one phone. But she was firm. No one gets to look at her personal email server. And that defiance has her critics tonight sharpening the knives even more. Correspondent Peter Ducey begins our coverage.
We finally found out today why former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stored all her emails on a secret server. It was just easier.
I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails.
But if Clinton kept one device because it was convenient, life for America's former top diplomat has gotten complicated more recently.
So I have an iPad, a mini iPad, an iPhone, and a BlackBerry.
Furthermore, Clinton said today she followed federal laws, never sent anything classified, and that about half the 60,000 messages she sent or received were personal.
Emails about planning Chelsea's wedding or my mother's funeral arrangements, condolence notes to friends, as well as yoga routines.
Ones like that she decided to delete, and moving forward, those emails and her server are still off limits.
The server contains personal communications from my husband and me, and I believe I have met all of my responsibilities, and the server will remain private.
That's an important claim because her husband, Bill Clinton, has only sent 2 emails in his entire life, and neither one was to her. The Wall Street Journal reports one was a reply to astronaut John Glenn before blasting off for space in 1998. The other was to American troops serving abroad. In the next few months, some of these conflicting statements may be addressed as the State Department is promising to drop every page of email they received from Clinton online, with the first batch all about Benghazi.
The only documents from that 55,000 pages that we will review for a separate earlier release are the approximately 300 emails already produced to the Select Committee.
So, what does all this mean for 2016? Some Republicans are already using this trouble as a punchline.
When I was governor, I got this from Hillary a couple of years ago. Hey, Gov, how you doing? I'm leaving the White House dead broke. Think you can line up any 6-figure speeches for me?
It's very easy and very common to have 2 accounts on one device. In fact, I hooked up my Fox phone to Gmail in under a minute this afternoon. So if, as Clinton says, none of these messages were classified, why didn't she just do that? It is one of the many questions that will carry over to her next Q&A, Brett.
Okay, Peter, thank you. So let's take another look at how Hillary Clinton has dealt with the mainstream media on this issue. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howie Kurtz, is here tonight. Good evening, Howie.
Good evening, Brett. It's hard to understand why Hillary Clinton waited 8 days to offer such a bare-bones defense. She stood there and took the questions, yes, but often seemed cautious, lawyerly, consulting her notes, careful about language, so she didn't admit a mistake, because that word would end up in the headlines. She talked about it would have been smarter to have had a government email account. And she deflected some key questions on whether or not an independent arbiter should review what's on her personal server. She just didn't answer. And on the foreign government donations to the Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State.
And I look forward to people being...
So why didn't she do this sooner, Howie?
It's a mystery, and I think it really hurt her, because Hillary Clinton has a deep-seated wariness of the media, going back to her days as First Lady when all those allegations were swirling around her. And even on Friday, Brett, Clinton's team was telling reporters that they were just going to hunker down, not answer questions, and wait for the press to get bored and move on. And in the meantime, the story got bigger and metastasized.
Yeah, and is there a sense that her surrogates have been helping her during this crisis up till now?
Well, former White House Special Counsel Lanny Davis got into several heated arguments with anchors, including our colleague Chris Wallace, saying that she had done absolutely nothing wrong, nothing to see here. And then James Carville yesterday went to MSNBC. He criticized the media and the New York Times specifically, which broke the story. Let's take a look at that.
Do you remember Whitewater? Do you remember Foulgate? You remember Travelgate? You remember Pardongate? You remember Benghazi? All of this is just the same cockamamie stuff that we go through. The Times gets something from some right-wing talking points.
The Times story was accurate, not right-wing propaganda. What you saw there, Brett, was the Hillary camp's long-standing sense of grievance about being, in their view, victimized by the media.
Okay, Howie, as always, thank you. Well, what do you think of the Clintons' defense? Let me know at facebook.com/BrettBaer/SR or on Twitter @BrettBaer. You can use the hashtag Special Report. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton weighed in on the controversy over a letter sent by Senate Republicans to Iran that Democrats say undermines President Obama. The GOP says this isn't the first time Congress has done an end run around the president. Here's Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry.
Traitors blared the headline from the New York Daily News for 47 Republicans who sent an open letter to Iran's leaders warning any nuclear deal signed with President Obama could be overturned unless the Senate gets an up or down vote.
The president doesn't speak for the Congress when it comes to congressional sanctions. Congress will speak for itself.
The letter was circulated by Republican Tom Cotton, who served tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan for the U.S. Army. Though Democrat Jared Polis tweeted, quote, Tehran Tom asked Iranian Revolutionary Guards for help in battle against U.S. diplomats. While the president's close political advisor, David Axelrod, tweeted, quote, to cotton-sticking Senate GOP, if Dees had done under a Republican POTUS what you did today, you would have been the first to cry treason. Republicans fired back congressional interference in foreign policy is hardly unprecedented. Then Speaker Nancy Pelosi met with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in 2007 over the strong objections of then-President George W. Bush, who was trying to isolate the Syrian leader. Today, perhaps to shift some focus from her own email controversy, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton topped off her remarks by declaring the GOP went too far.
Either these senators were trying to be helpful to the Iranians or harmful to the commander-in-chief in the midst of high-stakes international diplomacy.
Vice President Joe Biden, shown here swearing Tom Cotton into the Senate, declared the letter was beneath the dignity of the institution he served for 36 years, adding, quote, this letter, in the guise of a constitutional lesson, ignores 2 centuries of precedent and threatens to undermine the ability of any future American president, whether Democrat or Republican, to negotiate with other nations on behalf of the United States. Though Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he signed the letter because he's suspicious about getting cut out.
You have to ask yourself why. Why? And there's only one conclusion you could reach, which is that he intends to make a bad deal.
Yet the Wall Street Journal's conservative editorial page today took aim at McConnell and the other signers of the letter, saying they took their eye off the ball. The Journal says that the letter has now become a distraction and Republicans should focus on criticizing the substance of the deal. Brett?
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thanks. More on this with the panel. Up next, a brutal day for your 401k. We'll get a live report from New York. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 25 in Oklahoma City, as the president of the University of Oklahoma expels 2 students he says were identified as leading a racist chant as part of a fraternity event. Video posted online shows several people participating in a chant that included a racial slur and referenced lynching. The school has severed ties with that fraternity and ordered everyone out of its house. Fox 50 in Raleigh-Durham, as North Carolina officials say there was plenty of time to warn an Amtrak passenger train about a truck stalled at a crossing, but no one did. 55 people were hurt in Monday's collision. Officials say the truck driver could not get his vehicle through the angled crossing and could not back up because cars behind it left no room. And this is a live look at Boston from Fox 25, our affiliate out there. The big story there tonight, new images of Boston Marathon bombing suspect Yohar Tsarnaev at the scene of the crime. Jurors were also shown photographs of a handwritten note from the defendant found inside the boat where he was captured. It says that as a Muslim, he could not let the government's killing of innocent civilians go unpunished. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.